ready?
Yep.
Okay, so the social problem I chose was terminal illness, but that's kind of broad, so I just kind of went with cancer. And as you can see in the picture, this is a normal cell, and then this is a cancerous cell. Okay, so what is cancer? So cancer is basically an abnormal cell, and a tumor is a collection of abnormal cells. In the body, there's like trillions of cells, so everywhere in your body there are cells that are reproducing every single day, and they divide and they help the body function properly, and cells die and they become old and damaged and new cells come, but cancer develops when the body's normal mechanism for making cells stops working, and old cells do not die, and cells grow out of control, forming new abnormal cells. And like I said a minute ago, a collection of extra cells is a tumor. And like some cancers, like leukemia, do not form tumors. Okay, that picture up there is skin cancer. The 5 main categories of the first one is carcinomas. It begins in the skin or tissue and lines the internal organs. And then the next one is sarcomas. Develops in the bones, cartilage, fat, muscles, or other connective tissue. Leukemia begins in the blood or the bone marrow. Lymphomas starts in the immune system, and the central nervous system cancer develops in the brain or the spinal cord. Again, what is cancer? It's actually kind of interesting because with the research that I did, it said that like one individual's cancer is completely different from another individual's because of their age and their body functions and like how they live their daily life. And there's hundreds of different types of cancers, and research has shown that even breast cancer in 2 different women is completely different because there's different subtypes of cancer. So even in a tumor, there's like different subtypes, and some types of treatment doesn't cure that certain cancer cell in the tumor. So each person is different. There's 3 main types of treatment. There's all sorts of different new medical research about new treatments, but these are the 3 main ones. And the picture is cancer of the cervix. But treatment option depends on the type of cancer. The first one is surgery, and it's directly removing the tumor. Chemotherapy uses chemicals, obviously, to kill cancer cells. And radiation therapy uses X-rays to kill cancer cells. The goal of treatment is to kill as many cells while minimizing damage to other cells. Cancer treatment depends on the type of cancer, the stage of cancer, the age, and the health status, and additional personal characteristics. So, like I was saying earlier, because of the subtypes and the different types of individual cancers, the treatment is different for each person. There is no single treatment for cancer, and patients often receive a combination of therapies. Surgery. The picture is, as you can see, that's like a map. And then the tumor is on the side of the map, and then there's a tumor on the tongue. Surgery, if a cancer has not metastasized, so if the cancer has not moved, it is possible to completely cure the patient by surgically removing the tumor. This is often seen in the removal of the prostate, the breast, or the testicle. After the disease has spread, however, it is impossible to remove all the cancer cells through surgery. Surgery may also be instrumental in helping to control symptoms such as bowel obstruction and spinal cord compression. Radiation, it's also known as radiotherapy. It destroys cancer by focusing high energy rays on the cancer cells. This causes damage to the molecules that make up the cells, and they end up committing suicide. Radiotherapy uses high-energy gamma rays that are emitted from metals such as radium, or high-energy X-rays that are created in a special machine. Chemotherapy utilizes chemicals that interfere with the cell division process, damaging proteins or DNA so that the cancer cells, again, commit suicide. These treatments target any rapidly dividing cells. So that's why people lose their hair, because your hair cells are rapidly growing. But normal cells can usually recover from any chemical-induced damage, while cancer cells cannot. Chemotherapy is generally used to treat cancer that has spread or metastasized because the chemicals move throughout the entire body. So what surgery can't get, chemotherapy can usually get to. Okay, and then this is another way. This is how to eat to prevent cancer. This probably isn't something that doctors would recommend, but this is maybe certain health doctors, but anybody in a hospital probably would give you this as a main treatment.
This as loud as you can.
How to eat to prevent cancer. You don't eat supplements to prevent cancer. Look to the food you eat every day to pack in all the healthy nutrients you need. You will need berries, spices, sources of isothiocyanate, watercress, green tea, sources of folate, Brazil nuts, omega-3 rich fish, garlic, and macadamia nuts. Step 1. Pick up some blackberries. They contain twice the antioxidant content of blueberries. Strawberries, cranberries, and raspberries are cancer fighters too. Step 2. Curry lovers rejoice. Turmeric, the spice that gives the popular Indian dish its yellow hue, inhibits the development of cancer. Ginger runs a close second, followed by cinnamon. Step 3. Eat your broccoli. It contains isothiocyanate, a compound that fights several cancers. While Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and arugula also have ITCs, broccoli is king because it has a particularly potent kind called sulforaphane. Broccoli sprouts have the highest concentration of sulforaphane. Step 4. Munch on watercress and drink green tea. Both increase the amount of cancer-fighting antioxidants in your blood, and watercress protects your DNA from changes that can trigger cancer. Step 5. Enjoy a bunch of asparagus. It contains the B vitamin folate, which may reduce the risk of several cancers. Other good sources of folate are orange juice, lentils, spinach, peanuts, and broccoli. Step 6. Go nuts, as long as they're Brazil nuts. They contain selenium, which fights cancer cells. Go for the unshelled ones, which have more selenium, but limit yourself to 1 large or 2 small freshly shelled nuts per day, as too much selenium is toxic. Macadamia nuts contain almost as much selenium as Brazil nuts. Step 7. Eat fish a few times a week. An Italian study found that people who eat fish twice a week reduce their risk of developing several cancers by 30 to 50%. Go with omega-3 rich fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, and tuna. Step 8. Indulge in garlicky foods. Fans of this pungent bulb have a lower risk of stomach and colon cancer because cooked garlic inhibits cancer cells from growing. Step 9. Consume more Asian mushrooms. In lab tests, shiitakes repressed cancer cell growth. Also try maitake, zuling, enoki, and red reishi mushrooms. Step 10. An apple a day may keep the oncologist away. Studies have found that when pulverized apple skins were placed in a petri dish with colon cancer cells, the cell's growth was inhibited by an impressive 43%. So don't peel before eating. Step 11. Incorporate flaxseed into your diet. In a Canadian study, women diagnosed with breast cancer who ate a daily flaxseed muffin for 40 days showed a statistically significant reduction in the size of their tumor compared with a control group. Did you know the lowest rates of cancer in the world are in the Japanese regions Uji and Shizuoka, where most of that country's green tea is harvested? People in those areas drink more high-quality green tea per capita than residents of any other area of Japan.
Okay. All right. So some of the symptoms, like you can see in the pictures, like the skin cancer, which is like melanoma. There's like a change in the mole or a change in a wart or something that's kind of obvious to see, and so that's for skin cancer. And there's tumors, like if you can see that there's a tumor protruding out of your skin, that's a sign. They can be felt or seen through the skin, or a lump on the breast or testicle. It can be an indicator of cancer. Like I said, skin cancer is a change in the wart or a mole. Other cancers have symptoms that are less physically apparent. Some brain tumors tend to present symptoms early in the disease as they affect important cognitive function. I actually had an aunt that had cancer, and one day they caught it because one day at work she was like she was acting funny, and she was like talking like she wasn't making sense when she was talking. So they sent her home, but she didn't know how to get home. And so that was kind of weird, so they took her in and they found out that she had lung cancer that had metastasized to her brain. So that was one of the symptoms of her cancer. I wanted to share the story with you guys. This girl's name is Brianna, and she's 14 now, but she was actually diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was 9 years old. And when she started treatment, she found, like her sister found like a poster for Relay for Life, and so that's kind of how her journey to being like a spokesperson started, and she did Relay for Life, and then after doing a couple of those, she became a national spokesperson for childhood cancer. She spoke in front of the U.S. Congress about a bill, how to develop childhood cancer treatments and help raise money. Her mom actually said that she was kind of like the most upbeat person in the whole, in the whole process, and instead of her family carrying her, she kind of carried her family. And she said, life is really fragile and short, so enjoy everything. And I think that's, it's interesting to hear from like, a cancer patient of 9. Like, you don't expect a 9-year-old to get cancer, and there's people in the world that are, complaining about every little thing, and this girl didn't deserve what she got, but she was positive through the whole thing. And some of the cancer statistics that I found, this is actually crazy. 1 in 2 men will be diagnosed with cancer, and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer. And breast cancer is obviously is the most common in women, and prostate is the most common in men. But in both women and men, colon and lung cancer are common. 1,600 people die per day of cancer. The 5-year relative survival rates for all cancer diagnosed between 2002 and 2008 is 68%. That is crazy. And then the book that I read for my book report was A Fault in Our Stars. And it's just a story about a girl who, she has cancer at a young age, and she ends up having mets in her lungs, and they can't get rid of them. So she has to live her entire life with these mets, and which means she has to carry around like a portable air tank. And so she basically has to live with like a stamp on her basically on her arm that says that she has cancer. She has to wheel around this little air tank thing. You can see in the book that like throughout the whole process, her family sacrifices a whole lot for her disease. Her mom completely quits her job to take care of her, and her dad is gone all the time because he has to work in order to pay for everything. And she drops out of school because they, like in the beginning stages, they thought she was going to die. So they took her out of school to do treatment. And so basically all of her friends are either her doctors or the people in her her support group, and she describes them as dropping like flies. So they're not really people that she can depend on. And this is one of the Bible verses that I found. I thought this was kind of good to go along with this. Seize life, eat bread with gusto, drink wine with a robust heart. Oh yes, God takes pleasure in your pleasure. Dress festively every morning. Don't skimp on color and scarves. Relish life with the spouse you love each and every day of your precarious life. Each day is God's gift. It's all you got in exchange for the hard work of staying alive. Make the most of each one. So I think this is kind of just basically, saying that we need to live your life to the fullest, and know that you are not less off than most people. I mean, anyone can get cancer. Anyone, any age, any type of cancer, you can get it anywhere. So you just have to live life and love what you got, and that's it. Yes.
You can leave that plugged in if you want.
Oh, well,
That's
it's just
okay, I'll get it a little bit. What do you think, in doing all this, your research, has it changed any way you live your life? Have you thought about the prevention part?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because just reading some of the stories of people that I know there's probably people who were negative about their cancer, but reading all the stories of people who turned their this negative thing into something positive, and I think it's kind of made me more thankful for what I have, and thankful that I'm healthy, and that I don't have to go through that.
I know when my son was in Children's Mercy Hospital, it was you said that about the little girl. You don't often hear about a little girl with 9 years old, but it was shocking to walk through the halls, and there's windows on the treatment rooms, and you'd see these parents standing in there with kids, and that whole wing that's all it was kids with cancers and terminal illnesses.
Yeah,
it just
anyone.
I had no idea.
And everyone can get it.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, you just don't think about kids. Nobody expects that to happen to your child. It's not going to happen to your child. You know what happens, but so.
It's scary.
Do you have any? How do you see cancer as a social problem?
Obviously, like you said, there's it's one of those diseases where we don't really have like a form. There's treatment, but there's not a cure for it, and so there's no way to eliminate it. And there's so many people, like the statistics said, there's one in 3 men and one in 2 men and 1 in 3 women. It's just like ongoing. It's not really like you can cure it. So I think it's just a social problem, because people are dying of it, and it kind of messes people's life up sometimes. And
so individually it's a concern, and then also it's a medical concern, especially kind of brings to, we recognize this now because of Obamacare and trying to get a national health, that you have to consider all these things, and as far as cost goes, these are huge costs for our society. Even if it's just an insurance company, it's huge cost for us. Then we pay the insurance. Our insurance pays for the treatment of people who need it. It might be us, it might be somebody's.
And sometimes they don't. Like if it's an experimental thing, then the insurance companies don't pay for it, and you have to come up with the money yourself.
There was just, I heard an article just on the way to downtown today that said something about now that the AIDS activists are upset with Obamacare because apparently they're limiting the AIDS drugs that are available through that. Yeah, so now it's very complex, and my guess is it probably isn't going to be solved by a big government agency. It's too complex for them. So, anything else you guys want to ask her? Come on, wake up. I learned something today. Yes.
Yes.
Anything?
Out of this whole thing, what was the thing that most struck you?
What most struck me was the fact that the statistic was so high. I mean, you know, you think people get cancer, but you don't know that out of the two of you, one of you could have cancer. Like, that's crazy to think about. And then 1 in 3, one of us could have cancer. And if you think about it, it's like, okay, well, that's kind of like duh, because anywhere that I have cells, I could get cancer. But
Right.
it's just like, you don't really think about that until you're like in it, and it's like,
Or denial,
wow.
basically. About
Yeah, like, oh, people get cancer, but it's like, I have a better chance of getting cancer than I do of, you know, winning the lottery.
The good news that we learned about from some of the films we watched and some of I want to link to that video, by the way. I was just watching Genetic Roulette again with my wife last night, and she hadn't seen it. But there may actually be things we can do to prevent it.
Yeah.
That would, not that we're not going to die, but we don't have to die with that kind of it's abnormal death. So, all right, yay, good job. I